Whoa, whoa, whoa! Put the guitar down.
Whoa,
Don't hurt anyone, okay?
it's
Yeah.
down. Well,
Love may tear us apart, or
I
maybe I
wasn't
will.
playing that one this time.
Hello,
You're right.
everyone. Welcome
Hello.
to Preamp, where today we got another album to talk about. Humphead, you want to introduce it?
Yeah. Alt J, uh, a band that I feel hasn't really been in like the spotlight too much lately. I When did their last album even come out?
22, I believe.
22, yeah. And then for that, let's see, 22, yeah,
I think it was 14
2017,
and 8.
2014, and
Yeah.
12. So they seem to kind of slow down on their the kind of the production and whatnot, just the new stuff they're working on, which is
Hmm.
fine, but they just haven't really been doing much lately. But back when this album first came out, An Awesome Wave in 2012 rather, it kind of was like a little kind of spark, and like this kind of unique like pop atmosphere. Yeah, so it's just
Yeah.
an album put out by just a couple British people, just making like this interesting and kind of a little bit eccentric indie folkish kind of um, pop music. So I took a liking to it. I thought the songwriting was clever on it. And I really like the instrumentation. So yeah, that's kind of why I chose it, just to be something to kind of like see what other people think about it. So I don't know if I'll ask like what have you two's kind of enjoyed about the album, disliked, like in a kind of general sense, like first notes, I guess.
So,
Hmm.
this is an interesting one. Um, I didn't like the album.
Okay.
I I listened to it through the first time, and I didn't know what to expect. I'd like looked them up. I'd read a bit of the Wikipedia, read a couple things about them, but I never really had an idea of what the music would be like. I never really had any sort of preconceptions going in. And so when I started listening to it, and I heard the intro, um, and I heard interlude one. The intro I kind of liked, and then the vocals come in with um this sludgy distortion that feels entirely misused because it's reverberating against his vocals to detract from any kind of emotional resonance you could ever get from his voice. Especially with the way he portrays his voice, it just really felt out of place. And then going right into the first interlude where they're going the fa la 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 kind of stuff, it's just I felt the pomp immediately, and it built this kind of layer between me and the album where I was trying to attach myself to something so I wouldn't get pushed away from it very consistently. Um, but like I would find something to grip onto with the album, like on Tessellate. I actually quite like Tessellate. Um, and I really like the instrumentation throughout the album. I think the guitarist is really good. I really like what he's able to do throughout the album. It was one of the things that consistently kept me hooked in. But then I'd hear a line like "triangles are my favorite shape," and then later on, just reading out the digits of pi, or um, when it got to Fitz Pleasure, I'd by then I'd kind of gotten so sick of the vocals that I'd got a kind of fake version of his voice I was doing into my head, like this whiny, like me kind of voice that you do when you start to get sick of somebody's voice. And I had that in my head, and then he just actually started singing like the voice in my head, and I was blown away at how much I hated this man's vocals. Was it was unbelievable, and it was such a feeling of like, oh, they're good. I get it. There's this really nice guitar sequence. There's this really nice instrumental sequence that this repetition's building. They're starting to layer something. Oh, this is really going somewhere. And then it would strip me right back out of it by like hitting the xylophone, or it's like, oh, there's the quirkiness again. There's the quirk. There's the kind of folksy indie quirk that you have to expect going into this album, and it would take me right back out of it again. So, like, I really tried with this album, and I found some things that I really did like about it, and it made me think that like this band could put out something I really enjoyed, but this wasn't it for me.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. This has been episode 4. Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's, I mean, you kept that in the chamber, you know? I, because, yeah, yeah, I mean, I didn't really like ask either of you about like how you were enjoying it, so you took that on as a silent struggle.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't want to just blurt out in the midweek, and I've been sitting on this like I really tried. Every time I listened to it, I'd say, "No, I'm being too harsh. I need to give it another try." You know what?
mhm.
You know what? I am being too harsh. Maybe I'm just anti-folk. Maybe his voice is just a bit too different, and I'm being too harsh because it's different. And then I'd hear, and he just sounds like he's doing the Gunga Ginga voice, and I'd be stripped right back out of it again.
Samoski, how do you feel?
Um. Okay, I also didn't like it. I don't want to like say shit on it. But yeah, I definitely don't feel as negatively about it after listening, because I've listened to it like, what's it, like 4 or 5 times, like five
Yeah,
times or something,
I
from like yesterday
to
and
be
today.
clear, I don't feel as negatively as the first time I listened to it.
Yeah, I've come around, and there's a few things I've really appreciated um through the album, because yeah, it was the same. I had no idea what to expect about it. Um because I had heard their name before, but like I didn't really know what they did.
Hmm.
Um I remember there's a few of the songs I've heard you play before, Humphead. And yeah, cause um yeah, I had some similar gripes to Sin with, like, I didn't like his vocals very much. They just reminded me kind of just of a lot of the other indie stuff going around at that time. Um
That is very fair.
Yeah,
yeah, like, just the kind of um that it's like baroque, like indie man, like Ellie Goulding, like type thing going on.
All right.
And I was just kind of like, yeah, not really my thing. But he does, like, I can tell he has a good voice.
yeah, I
Like
would
when
agree.
he hits like notes, like, um, there's some that are like, he'll hit a really nice melody. I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. And it's just when he goes to like enunciate stuff, I get kind of like put off a bit. Um,
It feels like a
cause I
character,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, cause like I try to
Similar to
be,
Jordy Greep that we talked about last week.
yeah,
It's clearly like a
cause I
character, but yeah.
yeah, like I try and be open to different vocal styles. Cause I
Mm.
mean, the record I chose before, I mean, Dead Kennedy, like Jello doesn't exactly have a normal voice. I'm like, okay, like let me um like kind of give it more of a chance. But it just, I got stuck in feeling like he was kind of trying to put on a thing, like,
Hmm.
uh, put on kind of a voice thing that I was like a little bit put off by. But
I think we can all agree the instrumentation's consistently good throughout the album, though.
yeah, I did like a lot of the instrumentation. In general, the drums and like percussive stuff's pretty interesting.
Mm.
And like not using a standard like hi-hat setup, like um relying more on like kind of percussion stuff, like cowbells or like little bells and stuff. um I thought was really neat. um
Yeah, yeah.
and
The instrumentation. Oh,
oh, no, it's good. you had
So I
something
was
to add
just,
to that
and
point.
I was saying that yeah, the instrumentation was really the kind of pull for me more than the
Mm.
voice, because the voice, well, I don't, it's not like something that I really minded. It also wasn't something that I felt was like a standout, because
Mm-hmm.
it's more something where it's like I feel like I've like tempered myself to it,
Yeah.
although I do kind of like, it's still, I don't know, it's like like his voice at times kind of reminds me of like in a sense, like taking like a piece of grass and like blowing like the wind across it, right? Like it's kind of like shrill and can be kind of like piercing, but yeah. But the
Mm-hmm.
instrumentation is something that was always like spot on. Um and like, just like, yeah, like the using the cowbells and all the different, swapping out different pieces of the drum kit, and the I thought that the kind of blend of folk and electronica wasn't really like hammy in any way,
I would agree.
right?
I would agree.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because it is right, like, because this is a very much an album that's like of its time,
Mm.
like in the 20, when
Yeah.
you hear early 2010s,
Especially early
indie pop, indie folk.
2010s indie folk from Britain. It's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what it's gonna sound like now. I should have expected that. I didn't really look at the genres coming in.
Hmm.
So when I did hear it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what I'm getting into.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's of its time, but it does separate itself from it because like I feel like at its best, the album's reminding me of like some of stuff off of In Rainbows. It's reminding me of some MGMT. It's like
Mm-hmm.
at its best, it's reminding me of those kind of artists and still managing to cultivate its own sound where the instrumentation is really solid. But at its worst, it's making me think of like 21 Pilots and art pop Imagine Dragons fronted by Indie Vedder. Um,
Indie better.
it's like at its best, like Interlude 2 is amazing. I really liked it, and like there's some songs on here I really did enjoy. But
Mm-hmm.
there's I think that's that whole middle section. Let me pull up the track listing again in front of myself. Like I'm not too fond of the intro and interlude 1. I liked Tessellate and Breeze Blocks enough. But that section from Something Good to Fit's Pleasure, I had moments that I enjoyed, and it would suck me right back out of it again, over and over again. It was like kind of that vicious loop of I'm enjoying this, oh I hate that, oh I'm enjoying this, oh I hate that, and then it ended really strongly as well. So it's just that middle section of the album, but that's like 6 tracks that I just
Hmm.
could not enjoy because I kept getting sucked out of it, and then the ending I actually quite liked. I think Blood Flood and Taro were both good. Although Taro hits the weird Bangla sound out of nowhere. It's just, where did this come from? And I listen to it every time and I get jump scared by it every single time.
Yeah, me too. Like it's just I'm not ready. Like every time I'm like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah. Like
they do that.
if I focus on what I enjoyed about it, like there's some really solid stuff to talk about and there is still a lot to talk about because of it. But like it makes me wonder what could have been if it was a bit more focused.
Mm-hmm. Because yeah, there are times where it feels kind of like okay, we're like being too like normal. Like we have to like do something, and then they like add like go to like a new type of thing, or like um they go for the xylophone or
Yeah.
some like kind of like 2012-esque like add in sound, and it's just like um I don't know, I kind of agree with that. It's like I feel like if they had a bit more focus, yeah, it could be a bit more um kind of concise and easier to
Cohesive.
listen to.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it fair to say that like a lot of like the gripe with the album is just kind of like eye roll worthy
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like
so
most of
like a
the
bit pretentious, or like a bit
Yeah. I
like
used the word pomp
unnecessary.
to describe it. Yeah.
yeah, like pompous, yeah.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
kind of my worst thought about it. Um like excluding Fitz Pleasure, I really didn't like that one. But like the worst thought that I had throughout the album was like, oh, this is like um either sounds like something that would be in like a young adult like um
Romance movie, yeah.
alternative-esque, like, yeah, like something on like MTV, or like I even thought a few times like I could see this playing like in Life is Strange or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
you
that type of
messaged me
stuff. I'm
that.
like,
You
yeah,
could see it
that
playing over
like
a Life is Strange compilation, and I got it
yeah,
immediately.
and
Yeah.
that would be like fine. Like it's not like I'm sitting here like, oh, this sounds like shit, but it's like it's felt a bit like, yeah, that type
Mm.
of thing.
Like I feel like
Which
the exemplification of that kind of riding the line between something really interesting and eye roll, it's just exemplified by the name of the band, really. Like Alt J being like, oh, on an
mm-hmm.
Apple keyboard, it's the shortcut for the delta symbol. And then on their album cover, oh, look, it's a river's delta. Delta, get it? It's delta. And triangles are my favorite shape. And, like, they're they're being really quirky about it. They're not willing to be upfront. They're trying to be cute and quirky. And that, like, it really rides the line because I'm like, oh, it's a little bit cute. I kind of like Alt J being the Delta symbol rather than just naming yourself Delta, kind of a more of a played out name. I feel like a lot of things that name themselves Delta. Like, I'm thinking of like Delta Machine. I'm thinking of like Mumford and Sons had an album called Delta. I'm thinking of like even like Delta Ray, which is like a folk band from Durham, North Carolina. um, but like there's a Delta Sleep as well, which is a UK math rock band. Like Delta's a bit played out as a name, so going for something cute to subvert that is like I can just about get past it without the eye roll, but just about. They're riding that line so frequently, so when they push me even slightly, I'm like, nah, no, no, thank you.
mm-hmm. And like it gives not I feel like it's not quite as bad, but I get a little bit of the vibe like the like Tool, I forget which song, but it's like, oh, they're playing their Fibonacci sequence or like the time signature, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever gets
I
that
get
bad.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
never that bad, but it's like getting near that area where I'm just a bit uh like eye rolly, like we
Hmm.
said. Um but definitely I don't have like hate for this
No,
album.
neither do I.
Is just like it's kind of feel like it's just not really my thing, I guess. But then it's kind of made me think because I'm like, um, there's definitely some like indie pop stuff that I do like, and it's like, um, kind of got lost a bit in some of that, like trying to think of what specifically I didn't vibe with
Hmm.
about the album. And some of it is a little bit with some of the drums. I feel like, um, there's just a couple songs where it felt a little bit uncreative, like, not so much on Something Good, um, but on Dissolve Me,
Hmm.
it opens with very similar drums to it's like a popular like drum beat thing in a song. It's a Paul Simon song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover,
Hmm.
which is like a really famous like, oh, like top 50 famous drum beats type thing, because it's like drum beats are a thing that are used like it's like, yeah, a lot of songs have the same one, but like it just being specifically really close to like a very infamous like particular one is like it was a little bit like it on Something Good, and then Dissolve Me was just like very close, and that annoyed me a little bit, but that's kind of my thing. It's like
Hmm.
I don't think they copied it or anything. It's just like,
It sounded similar enough that it bothered you.
yeah, because it's like
Right.
this is a thing that like people hear, like it's not like people in like drum people would have heard, and it's like it's just kind of like it being like two songs in a row, one of them making me think of it. It's like,
And then the next one being so similar to it, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just kind of like, come on.
Fair. Yeah.
But like, um, then there were other songs where I liked the drums and percussion stuff going on. Um, like they're really simple and breeze blocks, but I feel like they fit there really well. Um, I like the drums in that song a lot. Um, and that song too is one of the ones in this album that I do like. I think that one's nice. Um, and yes, I don't know. It's like generally not like too much really popped out at me. I guess that album. The I do agree though the ending of the album is pretty good. Like
Mm.
Blood Flood, through Handmade. Like um, Handmade's probably my favorite one throughout the album. It's just kind of like a nice,
It's I
warm
think on
song
the
to me.
official release it's hidden behind 5 minutes of silence.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
one of
do like
those.
the hidden
Yeah,
tracks. People do.
again, it's cute, you know.
Yeah,
That's
like
not an eye roll for me. I think that's cute, but it's definitely one of those things that you don't really hear too often anymore.
yeah, and I think that's fun.
Mm.
It's always nice. Like you put a record on and leave it, and then it's like, oh
Yeah, you
hey,
get jump scared by another track.
yeah. Like I have one record. It's the old like early as hipsters would say it, emotional hardcore before emo. Um, but band Faith, it it's like you're done with the album and it just goes around the center and it's just like this evil laugh that just plays forever. So if you like leave it on and forget and go do something, you come back to like this creepy laugh, and I think that's funny. So like stuff like that,
The
I'm like, okay, that's
Sounds
cute.
like
Like
a
having
killer
hidden
sample.
stuff.
the original
It does.
the progenitors of all indiedom in a way, fucking Beatles, they had something like that at the end of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. When you got to the end of the album, the uh the innermost ring of the record would loop infinitely. It had the sound. It had like it was just kind of like a sound collage thing that was like really grating and would make people's dogs bark.
So
That's funny.
that was intentional as well.
It was intentional, yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, bonus track, hidden track is a long honored
Yeah,
pastime in the
I've
community.
always found it cute. Yeah, I like it
Yeah.
still.
So I
Yeah.
guess it really, if you're gonna like, if somebody, if you were to like, say, hey, what do you think about that album? It really would come down to like what things about like, little indie, quirks and stuff you can palette,
Yeah,
and like,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, like the quirks and the kind of conventions and stuff.
we gotta hit
Maybe
the
it's something
glockenspiel, guys.
got to hit the glockenspiel. Hey, I mean, Arcade Fire hits a glockenspiel, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
and
Yeah,
I'm
that
lining up the
is.
coleslaw
I
bar. Okay,
yeah,
like,
I that's one of the things I had to think about. Like, I'll let you finish, but yeah, that's definitely something I want to come back to.
I mean, that's basically what I was just kind of reflecting on that, because like it definitely is like a very like um it really does kind of layer on like the indie trappings heavy.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's just like if it's something that you like. It's not something that even like like there are a few like kind of dull spots in the album I feel. Although it is funny that you two kind of addressed like the middle of the album kind of being like the lull, across the whole thing, which is where like a couple of like my favorite songs lie in it too.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, it's like everybody kind of has their own impression, like their own experience with like broader indie trends and like the kind of yeah, the kind of styles they're pulling from and stuff.
to be
It
clear, I don't think
is
it's musically a lull. It's like more enjoyment wise, it was a lull.
okay.
Yeah. Like I agree. That's kind of where I was like going with feeling like it's just not really my thing because it's like there is nothing where I'm like, oh, this is like bad objectively. Like
Yeah,
there
I
wasn't
never thought that
that.
either. Yeah.
It's just like, I don't really like it. But like,
Yeah, I mean, like it kind of did. Like overall, you thought
Mm.
that spot was like the more the less appealing of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
the the Arcade Fire thing. And it was we wanted to kind of pick up from there the
Yeah,
indie like figuring out like what it was.
yeah. So like I wanted to, because I heard some things that reminded me of other albums I've enjoyed. Right, I heard some things like I said that reminded me of like In Rainbows and Kid A. Heard some things that reminded me of like some Arcade Fire, some MGMT, and I like all those
Mm-hmm.
things. I really like those bands. So I went back and like listened to them and listened to the album again to try and work out what I didn't enjoy about it and why I didn't enjoy it compared to there was a specific song. Let me check my notes. There's a specific Radiohead song that sounded very similar to one of the songs off of this album.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's Fitz Pleasure reminded me of like All I Need.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Um, with similar uses of the distorted sound, similar uses of like more classical instruments mixed in, layering everything together. But the difference was for All I Need, it felt very warm and enveloping, and it was the distorted sound sounded really clean, really good, and it mixed well with the vocals, and everything felt like it harmonized a lot more. Whereas things felt like
Mm-hmm.
it felt like a little bit jagged at times, and especially I've mentioned I really don't like the distorted synths they use on the album in general. I feel like they reverberate too much and they try and sing over it, and it doesn't work. It clashes with his vocals for me. Makes it sound like he's you're hearing him sing through like a broken radio, um, or like something that's picking up interference. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. But like when I was comparing it to the Radiohead stuff, the Radiohead felt like more warm and enveloping. Arcade Fire felt like a much more full sound space, but it just felt a little bit at times. I guess the word I'd use would be like anemic, a little bit like flaccid, like
Mm.
Okay.
where I wasn't ever really sucked in fully into it. I was always on the fringes. So when those things did push me away, those little things I wouldn't like normally, I was already on the edge, so it just pushed me clean off. Whereas those other things have more enveloped me in. I'm more into the sound space, and then when I hear the piano or a harpsichord or a xylophone, it doesn't take me out quite as much.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Even the more shrill, I'm thinking of like comparing Breeze Blocks to like Time to Pretend by MGMT, which is obviously a much more happy and high tempo song. But the two,
Mm-hmm.
why did I like that sound on one song and not on the other? It's because one sucked me in more and one didn't.
Yeah.
And it had more to pull me in around it rather than that sound being the thing that pushes me away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of agree because yeah, I was definitely feeling similar with like um because there were a couple times there was something like it'd be like a xylophone or like the harpsichord stuff where I'm like, okay, I've heard this stuff in like Arcade Fire stuff, and I didn't feel like pushed away or like negative about it. So I was kind of like, am I just being weirdly like confrontational towards this album? I'm like, I wasn't sure if I was just kind of judging it a bit harshly. Um, but yeah, I definitely feel similar to Sin. Like, I just didn't have the feeling of getting like sucked in.
A couple songs did it for
Um,
me. Like I mentioned, I enjoyed Tessellate enough that the triangles are my favorite shape line didn't push me away. I still like that song. Breeze Blocks, even with the like xylophone, that whole sequence of like please don't go, I'll lead you home, I love you so, I love you so, like that was great. I loved that sequence. I loved some of the
mm-hmm,
instrumentation around it, and like there's some of the songs that did pass that barrier and pulled me in enough that I couldn't really bounce off of them as easily anymore. But that middle section is where it was on the other side of the line.
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
And like
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, I was just gonna say like the last time I listened through even some of the ones I didn't like so much, like Dissolve Me, I talked about the drums and that, like that's still I feel like that song sounds nice to me.
Yeah,
Like when I listen to it, like it's um I just kind of was getting stuck on that thing, which was kind of annoying. But I'm like, I feel like that's a bit of like my own thing,
Mhm.
that I'm just kind of like stuck on.
I think there was a line you said to
Um,
me, which was, "What did Matilda do to deserve her name pronounced with that much stank?"
I did say that. I did describe with Matilda specifically that it's like there's some kind of demon on his shoulder that's like, okay, you gotta add some stank this time. Like when you say Matilda, announce it less. Like, because
Matilda.
you do it and I'd be like, okay, it sounds nice. And then you do it again and you kind of go, Matilda, and I'm like, didn't like that time as much. Um,
Have you
but
listened? Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was kind of rambling.
Have you listened to many of their other albums, Humphead?
Nope.
Okay.
I've listened
Oh, cool.
to a few songs off of their third album, Relaxer, but
Right.
just as like their own things. Um, yeah, I never really kind of ventured past this album because, well, I guess, yeah, well, I will say I do like the album a lot. It wasn't really something where I was just like, oh, well, I want to like, like hear, kind of like a development. It was kind of like its own nice little parcel to kind of enjoy, and I was just like, yeah, no, maybe unless the band kind of changes up a lot.
Yeah, I heard like
Um,
I think I read the guitarist left after this album, which is one of the reasons why I was
hmm.
like, that's the one of the best things on the album is like a lot of the instrumentation from the guitarist. So I was like, I might even enjoy the other stuff less.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I would say,
what was
yeah,
just
go for the singles on the next few albums. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's like I said, I had some hope that like a development of this, maybe some of the loss of naivety, like some of the loss of uh, some of their more contemporary elements and the tropes might help them. Like we talked about Black Midi last week and how they kind of grew out of a lot of contemporary references, a lot of references to things they're inspired by. They kind of made their own sound after a while. Even though I do think this is a lot more of a unique sound for a first album.
mhm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a lot of those tropes, but then does something interesting with them. Um, I would like to see what happened if they did move away from those tropes. So I think I might listen to some of the singles of the other albums. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because like there were even in songs I wasn't big on, there were a bunch of like little points where I was like, oh, okay, like this is a thing I really like. Like on Miss or Miss, I always forget. Um, it was like there was some really nice, like pretty fluttery guitar. Um, specifically towards like the latter part of the song.
Mhm.
Um, and like some of the instrumentals through that, I was like, there were parts where I really did like, ooh, like this is
Mm.
nice. Like I like this.
I really like Taro.
Yeah, Taro was pretty fun.
Mm.
Um, Handmade is still like that's one I'm like, oh, I like that song. Like that's one, um, that's good. So it's like, yeah, definitely like I have some mixed feelings about the album, but it's not like I think it's bad at all.
I want to hear with no intent to contest you on any of it, Humped. I would like to hear what you did really enjoy about some parts of the album. What like specific songs and specific parts of songs you really liked and what resonated with you.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
yeah, like
I'm
I'd love to
interested.
hear where you're coming from with a lot of this.
Yeah, because I think, yeah, I mentioned, yeah, like at the beginning, just like it was like the instrumentation and stuff that really drove it. I guess maybe I was over kind of exaggerating how much I like the lyrics because the lyrics are kind of corny sometimes. But yeah, it was like the instrumentation on so much of the album that I just need my desk. The instrumentation on a lot of the album was just really I don't know, like charming to me. Like yeah, one of my favorite songs in the album is like Dissolve Me, which I ended up really liking all like the elements of that song. Like you didn't really like the heaviness and the kind of like like swampiness of the bass, but I that's like one of my favorite things they use on the album personally because I just like how like kind of monolithic it is and like how full bodied it is and like
Mm.
a lot of this kind of songs try to like swallow you in it like you were saying for you you didn't really kind of feel that happening it was kind of pushing you away but for me a lot of times I felt they were really able to capture unique like sound palette and unique atmosphere with the kind of stuff they were trying to do with all the little instruments and stuff. I do really like the kind of like quirkiness, like um the little tidbits they try to squeak a little new whatever kind of sound out of like the kind of um indie pop pool. Um
Mhm.
and yeah, like I really like the guitar, the drums, the synths they use. Um and I guess yeah, I tend to like the vocals more than like the lyrics, you know, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Mhm.
Like the way like that the vocals are like the wheedly like the kind of nasally voice. I don't know. Maybe it's just I have a soft spot for it. Yeah. Um, because yeah, like all of them just kind of like coming together really worked for me on a lot of it, and so I think it's just like a really like soothing and calming album, and it's just like um even now after like kind of having it come and go out of my general rotation for a number of years, you know, I can still put it on and just be like, yeah, it is a really like nice song. It's um a lot of really pretty parts to it and a lot of like little charming things that kind of I don't know, that just end up making me feel good usually or um I still think could just have like really interesting dynamics to them. So that's the thing that I kind of still come back to the album for.
Hmm. I think
Yeah.
I've listened to it obviously like quite a few times at this point. I think it's five or six, um, all the way from start to finish, and then I've gone back and listened to a couple tracks individually as well. But like I found that when I'm listening to it, when I'm not trying to glue my ear to it and dissect it, it is a lot more of a pleasant experience. But there
Hmm.
would
Mhm.
occasionally be some of those sounds where like I mean, to come back to Fitz pleasure, just that the sound of
Yeah.
his vocals just drags me right out and makes me wince. But like in general across the album, I found it to be a much better experience if I wasn't literally gluing my ear to it.
Hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
so I can understand why somebody would continue to listen to it 100%. But like yeah, like with what you were saying about the bass sound, that kind of what was the word you used to describe it? Swampy,
Yeah.
um, and like enveloping. I
Hmm.
think I wish it enveloped me more rather than feeling like it was enveloping other parts of the song.
Mhm.
It felt like the song was collapsing into itself rather than dragging me into it. Was kind of more what I'm getting from it. Yeah,
Mm.
but yeah, it's interesting because like this is obviously the first time we've had like really big disagreement on
Mhm.
an album. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even say really big. Like, there are things on the album that we both like. Well, all three of us like even. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting to try and dissect why there is that difference between us here.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, because that's some of what I was like really interested in. Um, After like coming to terms with like, okay, I'm not like a real big fan of this album. Like, I really
Hmm.
wanted to
I,
see then like what you thought about it, Humphead, and you said like to like kind of like see like where everyone's different perspective was coming from and like what
yeah,
we all took differently from it.
I definitely came on
Hmm.
hard at the start, but it's because like
Yeah.
as I started to describe what I didn't like, I was like, feel like I have to give every reason why I don't like it to explain myself. Like, how dare I not like this? I have to explain it right now.
No,
Mhm.
don't worry. I did make a 17-part checklist, and I was going to ask you about every aspect that you didn't enjoy, but thankfully you managed to cover that all in your opening intro, so you didn't have to proceed. I have a little chart of people, all my friends, with their names on it, and in a tally, and I take them and move them around on the
Mm.
board in the back
'Cause
based on how much I
it was interesting because like
agree.
I feel some of the same thing you described with last week, where you felt like you had that kind of aversion to prog that was causing you to initially bounce
Hmm.
off of Hellfire. I think part this is gonna sound funny. The part of the reason that I have a problem with them is they're British and folk, and
Mm.
and they look exactly like you'd expect them to look, and and they sound exactly like you'd expect them to sound given how they talk about the music they make and how they look, and it's just like it creates this rancid vibe that I struggle to get past because it's like I said, that pomp, that arrogance that I feel,
Hmm.
that pretense that I feel feels like a wall between me and the album, and it was put up pretty early. Um and I've kept trying to break through it, but I
Mhm.
never quite found myself able to break through it entirely. And maybe that will come with repeated listens, but I've tried a lot, and I hope it can happen. But there's times where, again, at its worst, I'm comparing his vocals to like Tones and I.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Like he's clearly got a good voice, and as Samoski mentioned in some of those moments, he's really hitting some really well held notes that are delivered really nicely, and some great melodies. But other times it's like, oh, he's doing the quirky thing like Tones and
Yeah.
I.
Uh, well, this was nice. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we finally brought some disagreement in. I feel like we all can kind of like in
Yeah.
time learn to hone our conversational swords when it comes to like discussing the stuff that we don't really like. So
Now we need to
yeah,
find one we all hate.
There
yeah.
we go.
Yeah, I think because of all of the really positive elements, I would have to say that I would recommend that somebody try and listen to it, because if you can get past the elements that I struggled with, there's something to be really enjoyed there.
Mhm.
So I would still recommend it, even though I personally didn't love it. I, I say I dislike it, and even then, like if I was to think of like what would I give it out of 10, I wouldn't give it below like a 6. You know?
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
it's like I
We,
personally don't like it, but like
yeah,
that type of
it's
music,
not
like the whole
bad.
indie pop thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's
I'm
not
like, yeah,
poorly
that's not bad.
constructed. It's not poorly delivered. I've got gripes with it, but it's never offensive.
Mhm.
yeah, maybe we
Yeah,
just
it's
need to
like
put like a big sticker on it that just says like parental advisory and
yeah.
indie pop detected or something.
Yeah, no, if you like at all like any like
This must
early
be how normal
2010s.
people feel about 100 gex.
Oh God, true. Yeah, if you're into like any like early 2010s like indie pop like electronic like any of that
Folk,
stuff like
folktronica,
yeah
yeah.
um then yeah like definitely
I feel
like
like Vance Joy Riptide.
yeah. um if you have ever enjoyed an Arcade Fire song, um
If
yeah.
Yeah.
you ever gaslit your girlfriend while claiming that you are a male feminist, you might like this. I don't know.
If
If
you've
I'm just
ever
trying to think of like,
if you've ever poured White Claw into your wine.
If you've ever blamed your girlfriend for being addicted to cigarettes, um
Yeah.
this is a great one for you.
If you've ever if you've ever needed to ask to bum a cigarette off your girlfriend.
Yeah, like definitely go put this on now.
If your girlfriend tries to describe you as baby girl, maybe. Yeah. Maybe we can do this. Just like quick thing like favorite song, worst song. I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure, sure. We could try
Okay.
and I don't mind doing that going forward as well. It doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, worst song for
I think
me.
I think I can answer for both of you for least
Yeah, I was
favorite.
gonna
yeah,
say,
If it's
Sin
pleasure.
and I are hand in hand.
yeah.
It's pleasure haters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Gunga,
that part is
ginga,
what.
gunga,
Yeah, it's like okay.
ginga.
sounds like a
Um.
fucking the what are the things? They look like little musical notes, and you squeeze them, and their mouth opens, and they sing.
The
Oh yeah,
automatones.
Yeah, yeah,
automaton.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does a bit. For me, I took a while to think there, but I think Breeze Blocks is my favorite song on the album.
Okay, that was like the big like main single from the album, so that makes
hmm
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that one.
that's taken some getting past because there's some elements of the song I like that much that it makes up for the bits I don't like.
Mhm.
hmm Yeah,
What
even with
about you?
the drum gripe I had with this album, that song does sound good.
Yeah,
Um,
I
majority of
never
that
really
to
got
me.
your drum gripe. You played me the bit, and I was like, I don't get it for that song. The next one I get it, but that one I don't.
Yeah. Um, but it's like,
Willow really nervously messaging me like, "Am I being an asshole for thinking these sound the same?"
yeah, I was talking about that earlier because it was like, um, because I think is more. It's like if you aren't like kind of because not to like sound like condescending, but it's like not uh like being into like drums and stuff. Like that's not a song that's like talked about. So like that's is like I am kind of like being a bit harsh with it, I think. Um,
Mhm.
but that was one of the top songs for me. I think Handmade might be my favorite though.
What did you like about that one?
I don't know, it just felt like um it was kind of warm and comforting. Um it was one where I felt more emotion from the vocals because that's the problem. I felt a little bit disconnected emotionally from the album a lot of the time because I felt like it was I don't know, I felt like that it was disingenuous in a way. Um like I didn't feel that emotion from the vocals, but this one I don't know, it just got through that um kind of disposition I got into. And I don't know, it just felt really nice to me. I like the guitar on it. Um and it just yeah, I don't know. It just felt good. Um there's something a lot of the instrumentals throughout this album I did feel were nice and like set a good vibe um for just kind of chilling out and listening to in the background. Um
Mhm.
so yeah, that's probably got to be my favorite.
What about you, Humphead?
Uh,
What's your favorite and least favorite?
um, let's see, it's favorite is a toss up between um something good and tarot. Uh, yeah, something good is just like I just really love like the guitar in the back, like it's just it's kind of subdued and whatnot. It's it just kind of carries me along really nice when I listen to it. And I think yeah, it's just like a really like um good mix with like the drums on it. And yeah, like the vocals on that song, like I'm not even really paying attention to the lyrics much, but the sound of his voice, I don't know, it's just like feels a little kind of like enchanting to me. But then tarot is kind of like a similar thing. It's just I don't know. They're both just really great instrumentally. I love It's not. What is it? It's not a mandolin, or is it a kind of mandolin on it? That coming in. I don't know. I really like mandolin, so I don't know. I'll say it's something good because I think that's the one that I always throw on when I want to like try to listen to the album again. I'll throw that on and kind of get reminded. So it's um yeah, something good.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well, Samoski, next week is your choice. Have you decided what we are doing?
Yeah, we're gonna do the self-titled album by the band Black Eyes, which is a uh early 2000s punky type of band.
All right.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, looking forward to that.
Hope you had fun, everyone. It was a bit of a different one today, and we'll see you next week.
Take it easy. Stay away from
Later.
Grim.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for your gold star lesbianism.
True.